Why does London have 6 airports? Why are 6 airports not enough for this city? London is one of Europe's most iconic cities, with a rich history, incredible tourist destination, intense business opportunity and a unique culture. London has something for everyone, from history and culture to business and great times. In 1903, the Wright brothers invented the aeroplane. 5 years later, an engineer called Claude Graham White set up Britain's first aerodrome in Hendon in North London. All you required for an aerodrome was a big field with adequate capacity for takeoff and landing, as well as a place to store the planes when not in use. So far, flying was just a leisure pursuit for the fabulously wealthy who already had their own planes. In the First World War, aeroplanes were used for taking photos of and then dropping bombs on the enemy. The newly formed Royal Flying Corps took over Hendon and started building new aerodromes all over the southeast. It was clear after the war that planes were going to play a huge role in the country's future. Civil aviation was about to take off in 1920. Wotton Aerodrome transformed itself into Croydon Airport, London's first terminal for passengers. Suddenly you didn't need your own plane to fly. London had an exciting new industry. But things were about to speed up and get serious all over again for World War II. The Royal Air Force needed to build even more air bases to defend Britain from the enemies. Once again it was war that sped up progress and changed the map of Britain forever. Thanks to the war, even more people would now be able to fly as planes were bigger, faster and cheaper. New generation of airports would have to be much bigger and much further away from built-up areas. So, in 1945 the government converted an airbase to the west of London that they thought was far away enough. We know it today as the airport that rules the Britain. You know the one I mean, yes, that is Heathrow, a small West London hamlet, was the site of the Great West Aerodrome, which was converted into the modern London Airport. Heathrow Airport will follow. The terminals were quite primitive back then, especially this one. But it has withstood the test of time, and Heathrow is still London's busiest airport. In an unusual display of foresight, the government anticipated the necessity for a backup airport to support Heathrow. So in 1958, RAF Gatwick became Gatwick Airport, a smaller version of Heathrow with just one runway. It was London's number 2 airport, a title it still holds to this day. Unfortunately, the government didn't plan forward quite far enough. The 1960s brought about a huge change that they couldn't possibly have seen coming. The 1960s package holiday boom was the first time flying became really popular. Brits of all classes were jetting off to all sorts of exciting destinations. Soon Heathrow and Gatwick couldn't cope on their own. The race was now on to build London's 3rd airport, but where to put it? In 1977, the southeast was still littered with RAF bases from both wars. Why not simply do the same as they'd always done and convert another airbase into London's 3rd airport? The airbase he chose to convert was RAF Stansted in Essex. London finally got its other airport. London Southend Airport has found its way onto the official list, which brings our total to 5. The 6th and final one on the list, London City Airport, is the odd one out. Because instead of being built on a former RAF base like all the others, it was built from scratch in 1987 at the same time as Canary Wharf on an old dock that by fortunate coincidence was runway shaped already. London's airports are amongst the busiest in the world and more capacity is needed. While a 3rd runway at Heathrow may be some time away, there are expansion and improvement programs at most other airports. The idea to expand Heathrow with a 3rd runway has been the leading option to offer much-needed expansion in the capital for many years. A new northwest runway and extra terminal have been part of a government expansion plan since 2016. However, this suffered a major setback after plans were ruled unlawful by the Court of Appeal in early 2020. However, in December that year, the Supreme Court ruled that it would go ahead. The question remains, when? London Gatwick, expansion planned. In 20 years or so, Gatwick will likely have, or be close to having, a 2nd runway, either a new one or a conversion of the current emergency runway. A 2003 design for a 2nd runway at Gatwick Airport included possibilities for a new runway south of the airport's current boundaries. This could be a larger runway that can be used for both landings and takeoffs at the same time, or a shorter runway enabling one to be used for takeoffs and one for landings. These designs also included a new terminal to meet the up to 80% capacity increase. To date, The government has focused instead on expansion elsewhere, but with recent developments at Heathrow, perhaps these will return. The second runway plans have been abandoned currently, but land to the south of the airport has been secured. The current expansion plan focuses on bringing the airport emergency runway into use for flights. This is currently used as a taxiway and emergency runway, but modifications and widening could allow staggered takeoffs and landings, increasing airport capacity by around 50%. There was a proposed high-speed rail connection for Gatwick Airport, but the government dropped this in 2018. HS4 Air would have linked Gatwick to Heathrow and east to Ashford for Channel Tunnel connections by the late 2020s. London City Airport. There are significant renovations and expansions proposed at London City Airport. The airport is currently working on a masterplan for growth, investigating various options for its future. The feedback to the masterplan so far has been fairly evenly split between positive and negative responses. There is yet to be a planning application set out for any firm works to take place. The airport have already agreed to invest £500 million in expansion, a plan firmed up in 2016. This includes a new terminal, although this part of the project is currently on pause. Out of the funding, the airport has already completed a new taxiway and 8 new aircraft stands, removing the need for aircraft to backtrack along the runway and adding vital capacity. There is also a possibility that London City Airport will benefit from Crossrail. It is not on the main route, but there have been proposals to open a station, to link to the airport, or to include as part of an extension southeast to Ebbsfleet, giving connections to London Southend Airport. London Luton, eyeing the future. London Luton is the 5th busiest airport in the UK. In 2019, it touched on its maximum 18 million passengers a year capacity, signaling that future growth is likely needed. As such, Luton Council has produced a vision for sustainable growth 2020-50. Within this plan, the team wants to grow Luton to a capacity of 32 million passengers a year. It says this will be achieved through the addition of a new second terminal to the north of the runway, along with associated infrastructure. Luton Airport's private management company, however, has proposed a short-term plan to increase the passenger capacity limit to 19 million. The impact of COVID on these plans cannot be overstated. The airport is now intending to submit its development consent order to the government for an expanded Luton sometime this year, as opposed to June 2020, which was the originally planned date. London Stansted Airport, new terminal. With Heathrow and Gatwick airports nearly full, Stansted has increased in prominence as a long-haul airport. Originally conceived as a low-cost hub, Emirates, Air India and others have all launched long-haul services in recent years. There will be an expansion of terminals over the coming years, but plans for a new runway were abandoned in 2010 in favor of Heathrow. A new arrivals terminal is part of a £600 million expansion plan, which will allow the current terminal to be expanded for departures only. This will be unique amongst London's airports. As part of the expansion, the passenger cap was proposed to increase from 28 million to 43 million a year. This was rejected in January 2020, but will no doubt be revisited. Today we talked about London's 6 airports. How were they constructed? What's happened to them since? How are they used today? And what's going to happen to them in the future? We don't know if that expansion will happen or not, but one thing we do know is that traffic at London's airport is not going to decrease. 6 international airports and several smaller airports. Together, they make the busiest airport system in the world by passenger numbers. The London airports handle over 60% of all the UK's air traffic. What do you think about this? Should London Airport expand further, or should the expansion stop at this point? Tell your opinions to others in the comments section. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching our video. Be sure to check out more of your ALESAF over here. And leave us any other doubt in the comments section. See you soon.